Hello and welcome to Double Feature Reviews. I'm Libby.
I'm David.
And today we're talking about Erin Brockovich and Michael Clayton, two first plus last name movie titles.
About lawyers. Specifically, not about lawyers.
Erin Brockovich is not a lawyer.
About the legal
There
process.
we go.
Thank you, Libby. Not about the legal process inside of a trial with dramatic, inspirational courtroom scenes, but these are solicitor movies, not barrister movies. They are about the back scenes work that is necessary to move a case from one end to the other.
And I believe you had seen both of these before?
I have seen both of these before. I've seen Erin Brockovich, I think, only one time, and I've seen Michael Clayton probably 5 or 6 times.
You're a fan?
I'm a fan. There's no way around it. Yeah, Michael Clayton, immediately when it came out, people were like, wow, this is a good movie, and people are just going to ignore it, but it's a pretty good movie. And it's sort of maintained that reputation for a long time. It's one of those on list of underrated movies films, but it's been on so many of those lists that most people have now kind of heard of it, and they're like, yeah, that's supposed to be a good movie, I think. And yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, I'd never seen it. I wasn't really the target demographic for it when it came out in 2007.
I'm the target demographic. That's me.
But I still, knew this was a movie, at least contemporary, kind of thrillery, starring George Clooney and Tilda Swinton. I still knew all those things about it. I hadn't seen it. I also had not seen Erin Brockovich. I did kind of vaguely know about the actual events. Actually, I had seen a tiny bit of Michael Clayton. At one point, I was watching an interview with Tilda Swinton, and they were talking about her role in this. And they showed a clip of her in the background collapsing as George Clooney walks away. So almost the last shot in the film.
Yeah, they tried to spoil it for you.
So I was expecting that.
It's a slightly too confusing movie to be easily spoiled by, fortunately.
Yeah. I was like, Tilda Swinton at some point is going to have a bad day. That's what I knew going in.
I think it's fair to say it's mostly bad days for Tilda Swinton, and that's kind of the point of the movie. She's having a rough time.
And what title do you have for these two movies
Why don't you go
as
first?
A double feature? Okay, I can go first. I'm going with The Poison Inherent in the System. Referencing, kind of for no reason, just a great Monty Python line. Can't you see the violence inherent in the system? Help, help, I'm being repressed. And also, these films are pretty on the nose going, yea, verily, a metaphor. The poison in the water represents the poison in the legal system. Did you get it?
Undeniable. That's a great title. My title is Light and Shadow. Which is a reference to the plot of the film about how these shadowy events come into the light, but is also talking about the very, very different way that these films are shot, and Erin Brockovich having this very open, relaxed, warm style, whereas Michael Clayton has this very controlled, shadowy, paranoid style.
Yeah, both these films have pretty even luminosity within themselves, not a lot of chiaroscuro going on. So one of these films is the light and one of these films is the shadow. Is that what you're saying?
That's right, Erin. And I mean, I think Erin Brockovich is an inspirational, true story about the power of a woman who stands up against the system and wins against all odds. Michael Clayton is a dark story of somebody whose life is taken apart and is forced to sacrifice everything. So their tones match their cinematography.
And there is an Erin Brockovich type character in Michael Clayton who is not Michael Clayton, and the Erin Brockovich type character gets murdered.
Yes, right.
So for people who haven't seen these movies before, or people like me who maybe didn't follow exactly everything that was going on in one of them, David, can you give us a plot précis?
Absolutely. Erin Brockovich is a dramatic biopic. It's shot in a sunny, relaxed style. The story is that real-life struggling single mother Erin Brockovich uses her charisma, tenacity, and intelligence to fight for a job in the legal industry and reveal the truth about the biggest pollution scandal in California's history. In the first scene, Erin Brockovich tries and fails to interview for a job she's not technically qualified for. And then in the follow-up scene, on the way home, Erin's car is smashed from the side, sustaining a neck injury that puts her in contact with lawyer Ed Masry. In the final scene, after Erin's talents lead Ed's firm to winning a massive settlement against a corporation for spreading toxins in a rural community, Ed shocks Erin with a $2 million bonus check. Michael Clayton is a thriller drama. It's shot in a shady, precise style. The story is that lawyer Michael Clayton's life falls apart when his unstable friend and colleague Arthur Eden decides to reveal the truth about the toxins their corporate client has been spreading in rural communities. In the first scene, Arthur records a voice message telling Michael that he's mad as hell about his soulless lifestyle supporting evil and he's not going to take it anymore. In the follow-up scene, on his way home from a late-night emergency meeting, Michael is shocked to see some horses framed against the horizon on a hill. So he gets out of his car to cry at them.
Yes, prompting me to just start laughing in the middle of the prologue and say, David, I'm so confused. Why is he crying at these horses?
Then, immediately after Libby says this, as he's crying at the horses, his car explodes.
And then we get a 4 days earlier, and I was like, oh, thank God, because I'm so lost.
You are not the only person to have this experience. In the final scene, after Michael tricks corporate executive Karen into offering him a $10 million bribe on a wire, Michael takes an aimless taxi ride around the city.
Yeah, I would have loved if we could have tightened up the epilogue, the intro section by a couple minutes. Because it's 17 minutes long. It's a not insignificant portion of the film.
Yeah, I mean, we said that the first scene is Arthur recording a voice message. I guess we should clarify that it's really a monologue done in voiceover. Mm-hmm. Arthur is recording this voice message for Michael, but we are moving through the city, seeing the city at sleep or not at sleep as all the characters are up late night working, seeing Tilda Swinton sweating it out in a bathroom, mm-hmm. Seeing, the stress that everyone is under in this situation. But we don't know why they're under stress or really what's going on.
And also, who is hearing this recording that Arthur is making, if anyone?
Yeah, it's not the recording never plays again. It's kind of, he says Michael's name, so he's supposed to be talking to Michael. I think it's entirely possible that this is never, Michael never receives this message, and Arthur is just talking into his dictaphone or something like that.
His vindictaphone?
His vindictaphone, thank you so much. So we have that, and then we do actually get a brief moment in the law firm where we're introduced to Michael's boss, played by Sidney Pollack. And then we go to the emergency meeting. So yeah, it's a mess at the start.
So let's not worry about it. Let's start with Erin Brockovich, a much more straightforward film. This is directed by Steven Soderbergh, a name that you will hear again when we talk about Michael Clayton. Written by Susanna Grant. It stars Julia Roberts as Erin Brockovich, Albert Finney as Ed Masry, Aaron Eckhart as George, Erin's on-again, off-again boyfriend, Marge Helgenberger as Donna Jensen, one of the residents of Hinckley, California, Peter Coyote as Kurt Potter, a fellow lawyer, Vianne Cox as Teresa Dallavale, his a junior partner. Is that what she is? Or is she a paralegal?
I think she is a associate.
Okay.
She's not a paralegal. She's a very qualified lawyer.
And the actual Erin Brockovich Ellis as a waitress.
So I think Erin Brockovich is our first ripped from the headlines movie.
Yeah.
This is a real story. The idea for the film came when the executive producer, Carla Schamberg, happened to hear about Erin Brockovich's story because they shared a chiropractor.
Interesting.
As we have already alluded to, Erin Brockovich was in a serious car accident that gave her a spinal injury and made this whole story of the movie fall into place. And she still suffers from back issues, and she gets a chiropractor to help her with that. And she just started going to a chiropractor and would sit in the lobby with Carla and sometimes share their story. And as we've learned in the movie, Erin Brockovich is a very outgoing person who is happy to talk about whatever and is no filter. And so Carla heard about this, and she said, I'm a movie producer, and this sounds like it would be a really good movie. Mm-hmm. So she got Erin in touch with Danny DeVito's production company. So this is a Danny DeVito-funded film. Okay. And when they got together for their big meeting, Erin showed up in a very short black miniskirt and a very tight black leather vest and nothing else other than high heels. And so Carla thought, I'm not sure if this is good for the movie or bad for the movie, but quickly she realized that Erin was a really intelligent person that had a really interesting story to tell.
Also, I think definitely it was overall good for the movie.
Well,
Everyone wants to look at Julia Roberts' body.
yeah, I don't think it hurt the ticket sales was their final conclusion, and it does seem to have worked out. Of course, there is a real story behind the story of the making of the movie, because the real town of Hinckley, California, really was poisoned with tons of chromium-6. Chromium is used a lot, and they told everybody that it was going to be the safe type of chromium, and it wasn't. They brought in the writer, Susanna Grant. Susanna has mentioned that she always inserts herself into her own scripts a lot, and you can see a lot of Susanna in this script. So
What other things has she written?
thank you. She is most famous, or infamous, for writing the Pocahontas script, which she's not particularly proud of at this time, and she would say that she wasn't actually in charge of the creative decisions. She just kind of wrote the dialogue, etc. So she knows about that. That's what she's most famous for. This is her other most famous work. She also directed a film in her shoes, a interesting and layered romantic comedy. She wrote the Charlotte's Web adaptation starring Dakota Fanning, which you may have heard of and received some good reviews. But Erin Brockovich is her most famous film, certainly outside of Pocahontas. Oh, that's right. Susanna Grant also wrote Ever After, the Cinderella adaptation. That was actually, I believe, immediately before Erin Brockovich. And Susanna said that though she felt like the characters in Ever After were interesting, I think she subtly implied that they may not have been the most feminist film of all time. And she said
she was stuck with a 17th century fairy tale as her inspiration.
She really felt like she was limited by the task she was given, and especially by the highly formalized language that she was supposed to sort of be faux medievalizing into the script. And so she said she wanted her next project to be about a badass broad. So when she heard about the Erin Brockovich, she said, this is exactly what I'm looking for. Susanna spent a year following Erin Brockovich and her kids around, writing the screenplay. So she really wanted it to be not only a story about the case, but really a story about who Erin is as a person.
And this is a 2000 film. The actual case happened in 1993.
That's correct.
So how long after this did Susanna start following actual
I believe that we're talking about 1998, and the first part of 1999 is when filming begins.
Okay, so much closer to film release than to the actual events.
That's right. Yes. It was not. This was not a tortured production. Everyone was on the same page about what they wanted to do, and especially once Julia Roberts joined the project, it was full speed ahead. And yeah, it's actually famous because Julia Roberts earned the first $20 million paycheck for joining this project that an actress, a woman, has ever received in the film industry. And this was big news at a time. She'd already been paid the previous record $15 million for Notting Hill. And so Erin Brockovich was moving the industry forward for sure.
Interesting, because I was kind of surprised that Julia Roberts was cast to play Erin, because she doesn't particularly look like her. There was a 90s... kind of associated with rom-coms star who actually does look a lot like Erin Brockovich, which is Meg Ryan. I was kind of surprised that Meg Ryan wasn't cast in this role. I think Julia Roberts is probably a slightly better actor overall, but this role is not super demanding. It's pretty straightforward. And I know Julia had broken out a little bit more from her rom-com shell, but Meg Ryan, a couple years afterwards, she in 2003 was in The Cut, directed by Jane Campion, someone we're a big fan of. So it seemed like she was eager to break out of her Nora Ephron limitations.
Well, I do think that's fair analysis. I mean, it has to be mentioned that Meg Ryan's star in The Cut was one of the most negatively received career turns that are out there, for good or for bad. It's really not intended as a comment on the film, because people aggressively said they were not ready for Meg Ryan to be playing mature roles where she shows her body. And no, she's a nice girl. And maybe that is a factor. Of course, Julia Roberts doesn't have a totally different reputation.
She'd been in Pretty Woman.
But in Pretty Woman,
she
where she had started
sexy,
to... I think your analysis is pretty fair.
Not a wholesome romantic interest.
It's worth noting that Julia Roberts was very much who Susanna wanted and really imagined for the role, and everyone on the creative team viewed it that way, ultimately. I believe Erin originally wanted Goldie Hawn, who she also looks kind of like. I'm not sure. I think Erin might have been imagining Goldie Hawn from 10 years earlier, perhaps. But I could see that as a cast. I think Meg Ryan would have been good. And I kind of remember hearing something about her name even being floated around, but I don't remember that. The hesitance was that Julia Roberts did still have this very nice reputation, and actually when Ed Masry, played by Albert Finney, the real-life Ed Masry, heard about Julia Roberts, he famously quipped, before he heard about Julia Roberts, he said, as long as it's not Julia Roberts, because she has no tits, was what Ed had to say about it.
Also factually untrue.
As we discovered in the film. And I think he thought that she wasn't potty-mouthed enough to play badass Erin. And so, I think I actually disagree with you in that, I don't know, Meg Ryan maybe would have done an amazing job. I won't comment on Meg Ryan specifically, but I think Julia Roberts really was the right person to do this because, first of all, the movie is so much just about Erin's charisma. For good or for bad. You know, it's not, as you said, the most complex plot of a film, and though it has a lot of fun moments going for it, ultimately, for most people, when they talk about whether or not they like the movie, they talk about whether or not they like Julia Roberts and found her performance charismatic. And I don't think that somebody who maybe had that more reserved style, which I guess I would slightly describe Meg Ryan as, might not have made as big of an impression and might not have owned the scenes in the way that this character really needed to. There was a lot of hesitance about casting Julia, but also a lot of hesitance from the studio about Erin's character, specifically about how much she did curse, because they were really afraid that people wouldn't, early on in Erin Brockovich, when she...
Does she curse?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I curse so much that this just sounds normal to me. How many F-bombs do we drop?
I don't know. I think there's 10 or so, at least in the film. For this time, that was more controversial, especially about a nice single mother character.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of go fuck yourself.
There's plenty of those, for sure.
Yes, that's not how I use the word fuck.
Sure.
I use it as an adjective.
It's, early on in the movie, and when we see Erin trying to, and failing, to win a trial about her own car crash and her own neck injury, we see that the defendant's lawyers get the jury to dislike Erin by saying, oh, she's been divorced several times, and getting her to curse a lot, and thus offended the jury. And we immediately see the jury look at each other and shake their heads. We don't approve. She's not a nice lady. And I think it's definitely worth standing out that this was exactly the reaction that the film's financial backers had. She's been divorced twice. She curses a lot. The audience is not going to like that. They're going to think she's bad.
No one in our audience has been divorced.
That's right. So it took actually a lot of lobbying on behalf of Susan and Carla to convince the producers to let the character stick to reality. When Steven Soderbergh was brought in, and they shopped around for a director, and Steven was somebody who really wanted to do it, and they wanted him. And so when they picked Steven, his primary creative influence on the script was that he really wanted them to stick closer to the facts. And this film has been... Everyone in this movie says that they did a great job portraying of what happened. Obviously, there's a lot of events that are cut and trimmed and moved around a little bit. But Erin...
The background machinations of a law case are actually very boring most of the time. So
Factual.
I'm okay with just doing the interesting bits and eliding the paperwork.
For example, a lot of the different townspeople characters were combined and sliced up and grouped in different ways. So that the townspeople could not be, as a result of their settlement with PG&E, they could not talk to anyone about the case. But they did still, Susanna did go and meet with all of the different townspeople individually and would just sort of talk to them about their current lives and get to know them a little bit as people. And Erin, the real-life Erin Brockovich, when she was researching the case, had done video recordings of all of her interviews with the townspeople. So Susanna could go meet with the real-life townspeople and then immediately go watch the interview that they did with Erin. And so that really helped her. Erin's meticulousness, which is an aspect of her character in the film, is true to reality and did a lot to make this film work because Erin did such a meticulous job in research. So yeah, Erin has said that she thinks the film is 98% accurate. Ed has said that the film is 98% accurate. Even the fancy lawyer that they bring in,
Kurt Potter,
and they're like, oh, he's kind of arrogant and rude. Kurt Potter said, yeah, honestly, I do come across like that. This really does check out. They did a great job representing me in the movie too. So, even some of the less complementary characters have given it their thumbs up. And credit goes all around, but I think it does have to be said that this was the thing that Steven Soderbergh said he really wanted to do. He wanted this movie to stick by the facts, even if it didn't always come out in the most dramatic way for the story, because he felt like the story being natural and real. Maybe the biggest example would be that in the original version of the script, when they bring all the townspeople together for a meeting and they do the big speech and we all have to agree. That was Erin giving that big speech as the inspirational, as the connection to the townspeople. But then Stephen learned that in real life, actually, Ed had given that speech and convinced the townspeople. He said, well, that's great. Now we have real character development from Ed, so we're going to stick by the facts.
Could we say he was inspired by the movie-making methods of David O. Selznick from last episode?
I think there's undeniable, and I think I feel the same way, which is that I love it. I love that we have a movie that does basically try to stick by the facts, even if that requires us to do a little bit more layered of a story for the same reasons. I'm sure that, I think it has to be said, part of the reason people tend to feel positively about this movie is most of the characters that we've listed are portrayed pretty well. Erin Brockovich is portrayed very complimentary in this movie. She's beautiful and intelligent and tenacious and etc. So, she might have good reasons to go along with it, but she did. Lots of little facts here are from the real trial. For example, the scene where they have the lawyers taste the water and then surprise them by telling them, oh, it's from Hinkley water. That didn't actually happen in a meeting. That happened not at the trial, but at the real hearing with the judge, and the lawyer was visibly concerned about that. So there are a lot of bits that did come from the real movie. They did have to cut some parts out. In the real life story, Erin Brockovich also got very sick, probably from spending a lot of time in Hinkley and drinking all the coffee that was offered to them, unlike Ed. And so she was actually hospitalized in the middle of the trial. And we still see pieces of that in this movie. There's this part at the end where, she gets sick. And it's kind of like, oh, Erin just got a cold one day, and that was a problem for her at work. But that was originally a much bigger storyline, and she goes to the hospital, etc. Stephen said, we don't want this to become like a sad hospital lady movie, so we're cutting that. Stephen also chose to add the initial scene with the failed job interview to sort of introduce us to the character, which has received a lot of acclaim. And last note about the script is that I think it's interesting to compare the way that PG&E, the evil corporation, is portrayed here as opposed to Michael Clayton in some ways. In Michael Clayton, we're going to see, of course, we really dig into the leadership of the evil corporation and see what's going on from their perspective. Susanna said she specifically had to fight to not do it that way for this script. She wanted the enemy to not be the bad CEO who says, go get Erin Brockovich, whatever it takes. It was the system. It was the big corporation, and it was faceless. It had a different face every time.
Yeah, I would say our primary antagonists are Kurt and Teresa from a sort of technical script writing perspective.
Yeah.
They're the people that Erin has to best.
They're only in the last third of the movie.
Yeah.
So, fair. I think that's fair. I think originally the antagonist is Ed. And, several members of the creative team, Stephen and Susanna, have described the film as a platonic romance film.
Okay.
And that they see the real plot of the movie is about the relationship that Ed and Erin form as friends and as colleagues. Because in real life, they did go on to make a law firm effectively together and take on a lot of big cases.
That did not translate to me. The one thing that I found unbelievable, and that doesn't mean it didn't happen, was how Erin initially gets the job at Masri and Vitito, or however you pronounce that, Vitito. She just sort of shows up and starts acting like she works there, and then blusters her way into forcing Masri to give her a job. Is that actually what happened?
I don't know the details of that, and I don't think Ed or Erin have commented on that very much publicly. Maybe because it doesn't actually play out as dramatically as in the film. I think the impression I've gotten for them is that what we're seeing in the film is a very condensed and stylized version of what did really happen. That Erin was Ed's client, that the lawsuit did not go as planned, that Erin then said, well, why don't you just hire me? And Ed said no. And she said, please, please, plus, you better. And eventually he relented and just went with it. I don't know how much, if she actually showed up to the office.
She did not show up at his office and pretend that she worked there.
So I would believe that. But on the other hand, I've never heard anyone say that didn't happen. So the real answer is I don't know.
Also, was the final scene with the check fake out as much of a classic Hollywood cartoon as it was?
I don't know if Ed got his punchline in or not, but I'll say maybe again. I do know that when Erin first started working at the film, all of the other partners at the firm really wanted Ed to fire her and thought that she was really unprofessional, was going to ruin the firm. So I know the broad strokes are true, but I think the 2 points you're pointing out are kind of a bit suspicious.
Yeah.
I think you're onto something. It was filmed from May to September of 1999 on a $52 million budget. Which is kind of sounds high, but that's because $20 million went to Julia Roberts. I've already mentioned that the film has subtle but very striking photography. And my opinion, though Julia Roberts is very charismatic and the story does have a lot of interesting and real-life elements to get excited about, it is really the cinematography and the photography, maybe even more specifically, that moved this film into a critical success and a cultural icon. I think the photography in this film is superb. I kind of regret that you and I watched this on a relatively small laptop screen. I think I underestimated how big of a difference that made, because in a more theater-like environment, there are just some really pretty pictures in this movie. And the way that natural sunlight is integrated into almost every scene, both when we're out in the open and even in our dark lawyer office scenes, there's still sunlight forcing its way in through every window, which matches California in some ways, but really does a lot to set a visual tone and make the film nice to look at.
And also Julia Roberts is in autumn, and so blends nicely into that sort of golden background.
I see. Well, then, is Meg Ryan in autumn?
I don't know. I don't know if her blonde hair is real. I think she's either in autumn or a spring.
The defining stunt of the film is the car crash that we see at the beginning. That's our biggest action moment in the film, and those are radio controlled
I don't know.
cars.
I was really tense about that grabbing the frog moment.
Yeah, that's a good point.
She does come really close to falling into
You have plastic bags. Use a plastic bag, Erin. You don't need to, but all right.
Yeah, I gotta say, I totally support Erin Brockovich, human and characters, clothing choices, let her wear whatever she wants. It seems to me like her footwear choices are inhibiting the lifestyle she wants to have.
I think other people have mentioned this to Erin Brockovich as well. You are not the first person to have that analytical point, and it doesn't seem to have influenced her behavior a lot.
Okay. I don't mean in terms of looking professional. I mean in terms of running around.
So yeah, those are radio-controlled cars smashing into each other.
Full size.
Full-size cars. Those are real cars. As you mentioned already, Erin Brockovich appears in a brief cameo in the film as the waitress Julia. And it's also worth noting that Ed Masry, the real-life Ed Masry, is actually in the background of that scene. In the second shot that features her, he's the diner patron sitting at the table behind them. The real judge that gave this all-important ruling that they really hype up in the middle of the movie is the real judge. That's him, and he apparently, in his ruling, you can tell that he's pretty upset at PG&E and isn't impressed with them. Apparently, he was upset enough to then appear as himself in the movie later. So it seems like he genuinely felt like one side was right and the other side was wrong here. Albert Finney, who stars in this movie, is also going to, very shortly after this, star in Steven Soderbergh's next project, Traffic, which was filmed from April to June of 2000. And this is very relevant when it comes down to what happened after the release. So the Erin Brockovich was released in March of 2000. So that's a 10-month total development process. The film did very, very well at the box office. It made $256 million in gross, about $200 million in profit, for about 400% return on investment. So, Danny DeVito got his money back if you're worried about him.
I was so worried about Danny.
Absolutely. It received very solid reviews from critics. Has an 85% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. You mentioned the excellent cinematography and Julia Roberts' charisma as the primary factors. When it came time for award season, this was the moment where Steven Soderbergh really took over as the king of cinema, because he entered into the select group of people to have two films that were simultaneously nominated for Best Picture. Erin Brockovich and Traffic were nominated for Best Picture and for Best Director.
Which one won?
Neither film won Best Picture. Gladiator won Best Picture, which in my opinion is one of the great Oscar crimes in all history, and actually set us off on this whole trajectory of unnecessarily and waveringly trying to reach out to big blockbuster movies and give them a handicap at the Oscars, which has just led everything into the chaos that we're suffering in now.
The handicap is make categories that they can win. There you go.
I don't think Erin Brockovich deserved to win for Best Picture. I don't particularly think that Traffic deserved to win for Best Picture. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon was by Ang Lee was nominated, which I believe is one of the great films of all time, and I believe didn't win the award, even though it was a huge box office success, because it was foreign and Asian and some combination of Hollywood internalism, xenophobia, and underestimating audiences led them to believe that they shouldn't do that. I think this would have been awesome if this was the year that the foreign language film finally won Best Picture, and instead they gave it to Gladiator, which has like a cool helmet and basically nothing else.
Everyone liked that scene in the wheat, and he's sad about his family.
Wow, what a scene. A guy is sad about his family. So deep.
Incest, bold.
Yeah. Traffic won for Best Director. Erin Brockovich only ended up winning for Best Actress in a Leading Role, Julia Roberts. Almost Famous won for Original Screenplay.
Okay. Would Erin Brockovich have been eligible for Original Screenplay? Barbie was an adapted screenplay. Is it original if it's based on real-life events? I think Oppenheimer was also adapted.
Erin Brockovich was nominated for Best Original Screenplay.
Weird.
What would it be adapted from?
Real-life events?
You're only adapted if you're adapted from a media property.
Okay.
Not from
which
real-life
includes
events.
Barbie.
Just generally Barbie.
The concept
Barbie.
of
Barbie.
In Traffic, did Albert Finney get to play a Brit?
No, he is portraying a member of the federal government.
Okay. I don't think he did a bad job with the American accent, but when you immediately watch Michael Clayton with Tilda Swinton's impeccable American accent, I couldn't help but notice his cancer.
Yeah, it does slip out a bit. And he does, I think, move fluidly between a West Coast American accent and a very East Coast New York style American accent. So he is transatlantic and trans-American in his experience. So I think a casual viewer won't be bothered, but it does stand out a little.
Yeah. Where was Ed Masry born? Was he born on the East Coast? Some people have combo accents.
Ed Masry was born in Paterson, New Jersey.
Oh my God, Albert Finney, the artiste.
It all comes together. But maybe he spent a lot of time with Ed, and that's just how Ed talks. It's a good point. At the BAFTAs, Gladiator won again for Best Film.
Brits, you're supposed to be better than this.
Ang Lee won for Best Director, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, which was very much deserved. And Julia won again for Best Leading Role, and Almost Famous won again for Original Screenplay. The film has continued to receive a very positive reputation. It definitely has. It's in the list of movies that filmy people like and non-filmy people like, and a good crossover film, I think there. It has a 7.5 rating on IMDb with 236,000 votes, so people are definitely out there watching this movie and, for the most part, enjoying them. So the film has a good relationship, a good reputation, for the most part, among the former residents of Hinckley, California. There is some tension there, because the film kind of portrays it as if the town of Hinckley kind of won and PG&E lost. But that's not really what happened in real life. The town of Hinckley lost. And those few hundred people some of them get a lot of money. But there were still lots of people who were not involved in that suit and were not compensated. And I think the bigger issue is that the entire town of Hinckley has basically, as a result of this process, been destroyed. It is totally depopulated. It's a ghost town. And there are various estimates, but it seems like it's going to be between 50 and 100 years before this area of California is inhabitable again. Okay. So everyone who was living there had to sell their houses. It was kind of bad for you if you didn't get sick. Because if you didn't get sick, you still can't live there because you're going to get sick soon. And also you have to sell your house and move somewhere now. No one
probably at a loss.
Yeah, no one's going to buy the house except PG&E, and most of them did not get particularly good offers because there was no competition. So, though $400 million was maybe appropriate compensation for the specific damage these specific families lost, we're talking about billions or maybe even trillions of dollars in total damage to the community. One small town over 100 years, there's a lot of stuff going on there. A lot of people living there, a lot of business, and all of that was lost. So the real truth is that PG&E got away with destroying this town and turning it into their toxic waste dump, and they paid a tiny fraction of what that was actually worth. That's the real truth.
Yeah, I did kind of, I guess, unintentionally pick up on that in the film. And I gotta say, there are a lot of good things about this film. I think it is holistically a failure because its goal is to be this sort of like feel-good story about, the little guy taking on the big guy and winning through cunning, charisma, and tenacity. And this all sort of culminates in the scene where Julia Roberts tells Donna, they're going to give you $5 million. And then Donna starts crying and hugs her. And I was like, yeah, but you still have cancer. Like, that hasn't been fixed.
I think they said they were going to fix that by removing those organs from her, implying that that would at least temporarily fix the cancer. But I agree with your point.
Yeah.
I think that's a question we need to ask. Is the better movie the movie that doesn't shy away from the pain of Hinckley and the real damage that was done to this community? Would a 10-minute period at the end, after Erin gets her check, where we're forced to confront the real reality of it, would that make it a better movie or a worse movie? I mean, I certainly understand maybe why, I'll just pick Danny DeVito since he's the famous one, might say no, he wants his money back. That maybe doesn't sound as sellable? Or is that more sellable?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can have this movie and then stick 10 minutes on the end where it's like, and by the way, everything was actually bad. Because so much about the movie is being like, yeah, this is good. I was slightly disappointed in this movie once I figured out what was going on by like a third or the halfway mark. This is definitely in the same category as like inspirational teacher movies.
Oh yeah.
Which like are kind of eye-rolly for me.
Yeah, I think there's one side of it that I agree with you definitely where Erin just comes in and saves everybody. And Erin is just such a special person that they couldn't do it for themselves. And they needed Erin to save them. And I'm sure Erin Brockovich did do a lot of really important work and clearly made a huge effect and is a really talented person. But as you point out, Erin didn't save them. And it's an abstraction, which is done to make you feel like you might have this amazing journey happen to you as well. And make you feel like you can save a town. But the real truth is that you can't. Even Erin couldn't save this town.
You want to save a town, go find the cure for cancer. That's how you actually fix the problem.
And
also, like, they talk about, we got this big number, 33 million.
333 million.
333 million. It was kind of undercut by all the stuff that had happened earlier. One, Ed Masby's getting 40%. And I guess Erin Brockovich is getting a non-trivial amount of that too. And they talked a lot about like how this money is all going to be split between them. And Donna getting $5 million means everybody else is getting less of the pool. I did not find that scene successful at all in making me feel like the problem had been solved.
Yeah, I think Donna's character kind of has a rough time of it, honestly. I don't think the line of her saying, if you remove my breasts and my uterus, am I still a woman?
Yeah, I don't think that would get made in 2025.
That would not get put out now for a variety of reasons, and it's not particularly good filmmaking. I mean, there we do lean into the made-for-TV film experience like you're talking about. Also,
you do get reconstructive surgery as part of a mastectomy if it is for cancer, if it's for a tumor. That's the standard part of the procedure.
I think I disagree with your conclusion that you can't do this movie and add 10 minutes in at the end about the sad part.
Okay.
Because, though I think many other people would agree with you, I love movies that do that have your inspirational experience and let you experience that process, and then at the end say, by the way, just so you know, that's not real. That's not how it would really work in real life. That's what happened with AI, and you hated it. No, AI did the opposite. It gave us the real sad ending where he gets stuck under the ice and he doesn't get his wish. And then it adds the extra part at the end that's like, yeah, and then robo-aliens and magic or something, and it's fine. That's the part I
Right, but getting One Perfect Day with Mommy is not actually good.
The film seems to say it is in AI.
Well, we both know that's not true, same as in this film.
Okay, I guess that seems like a slightly different effort.
Okay, so storyboard this for me. We get the scene.
Yep.
Donna, you're getting $5 million. Other people are getting less.
Erin, you're getting $2 million.
And then Erin, you're getting $2 million. Erin walks off gloriously into the sunset, and then.
Okay. So maybe we have like a week later, some townsperson that Erin interacted with a lot calls back and says like, okay, hey, PG&E is telling me that if I live here, then I'm going to get cancer next year, and they're only going to pay me $50,000 for my house. What are we going to do about that? And Erin says, oh, I'm sorry, I can't help you. The case is closed. I already got my money, so good luck. And then they're like, but wait, what about my problems? And then another person calls Erin, and another person calls Erin. And Erin drives out to the town and tries to talk with these people and hear their problems.
I don't think it would work if Erin said, sorry, case is closed.
Well, she says it in a nice way. Okay. But she said, I don't know, talk to the judge or something. And then Erin drives out, and maybe she goes into a couple living rooms, and there's a few families there, and they talk about their problem, and Erin is like, wow, there's really nothing I can do about that. And then Erin goes home, and now her kids really like her, and they're like, oh, thanks so much for saving all of those kids, Mommy. And then she's thinking to herself, but now all of the children that I'm not saving, oh no. And then we maybe that's about 5 or 10 minutes or whatever. And then our closing shot, because this film has so many great fade ins and fade outs. Mm-hmm. I'm not normally a big fan of the fades, but wow, Stephen uses them great here. So maybe we see Erin sort of holding her child, looking out, confused and uncertain about, did I really do the right thing? And then we fade out to the town of Hinckley, and we see like a time lapse where the town, everyone leaves, and it becomes a ghost town, and there's tumbleweeds and abandoned buildings. Something like that.
I think that's too much of an about-face character move for Erin.
That's what she did in real life.
Right, but the rest of the film isn't portraying her exactly like how she was in real life.
I guess. I mean, I think we could still portray Erin positively and overall sympathetically throughout this experience. We're not trying to really make it her fault. Mm-hmm. But I think Steven Soderbergh has the tools to both tell us the truly inspirational story about Erin and tell us the truly depressing story about the town. And I think we can do both at the same time if we want to. But we have to decide if we want to. I guess a couple last points. I mean, I've already mentioned the great cinematography, and I think it has to be highlighted how much effective color grading there is. You know, there's such a strong yellow-green outside, blue-green when yellow-green in environments where Erin is able to be her true self, is able to display her talents, and is able to make a big difference. And then in all of the scenes where Erin is being controlled by the system and underestimated when she's first in the law firm, when she's at the bad job interview, we get this much more muted and controlled blue style. I think that's really effective in setting the tone. I also really liked how there were almost all static shots with the camera sitting on something for all of our action moments when people were moving around and big things were happening. But then whenever we would have a personal conversation, an intimate dialogue, we would switch to a handheld camera and we'd see close-ups on the people. And, Steven, this is a classic technique that Steven Soderbergh really helped to move forward partially in this film. I also kind of want to give a special shout out to a character that is not big enough to be listed in your opening cast list, and I don't even know his name. Baseball cap guy, the leaker who tells Erin. Okay. I don't know what his name is. I'm just going to call him baseball cap guy. That's fine.
He destroyed documents for PG&E.
He destroyed. Yes, that's right. He leaks. He didn't just destroy them. He still has a copy, which turns the whole.
Well, his line is, "I destroyed documents for PG&E."
That's right. Of course, it's kind of a weird character because at the beginning he's implied to be some sort of like creepy rapist who's stalking Erin.
Yeah, I mean, they played that so obviously that I was like, there's got to be a Volta here. Yeah. I'm using that term to talk about film now. You can't stop me. So that's kind of a weird character, but we do end up being very focused on him. I think the actor did a great job. If you have to play the kind of creepy rural guy, it's hard to play that accurately and with some dignity and charisma. And I think the actor did a great job connecting it. And the story, because I guess we're coming to the end of Erin Brockovich, the story of a bad document and the role of a bad document in a legal process, we're going to see plays a big role in Michael Clayton as well. And I really liked the way that they highlighted that and made an effective climax, an effective turn. I also feel like this film is maybe a little bit cheating because if you say anything bad about it, if you say, I don't like the film, then they can fall back on, you don't want the cancer victims to get their money? I feel like that's That's a cheap ploy.
I guess.
It's about cancer victims getting their money.
I mean, they already got their money. It's too late now. Watching this movie is not going to help. The cancer victims are not getting a percentage of this movie.
Right, I agree.
Danny DeVito's not going to stand for that.
You don't need to explain this to me, David.
I understand. I don't know. I don't think that that's the reaction people are going to say if you say I don't like this movie. They're going to say, oh, you like fancy movies, and finally we make like a good movie that's just like a normal people, and normal people like it.
I really liked that this movie was about normal people. I think Hollywood makes way too many movies about
normal
rich people.
You know, it's just like a lady and she fighting against a bad corporation and then they win. Can't we just have a movie that's just like a normal movie, Livy?
Yeah, we have them.
Okay. Well, and you like them.
Can it be normal and good? Is
well,
that too
the
much
photography was very good.
I didn't complain about the photography. I complained about the script.
Yeah, I enjoy a very good script, but I enjoy good photography more. And I
guess I prefer a good script to good photography.
I think this is the difference. I'm not a fan of Erin Brockovich. I guess I would say I enjoy the movie and I enjoy watching it. It's not going to go on any of my.
I'm not going to rewatch it.
I'm not going to rewatch. I've seen it one time. I've seen it twice now, actually. Yes. So that's fine. I think if you want to know how do I make a movie that has a pretty simple script, maybe you're a director and you're assigned such a script. Mm-hmm. Erin Brockovich is a good template to learn from. Well, how do I make it interesting? How do I make it entertaining? How do I make it have good filmmaking? If maybe it's a pretty by the numbers story, and I really agree with you that. There's not really anything going on in this script. There's nothing. Unless you think when pretty ladies curse, that's scandalous. In either a good way or a bad way. If that's something for you, then this might do it for you.
So now before moving on to the second film of this double feature, we are introducing a new segment on this podcast. We were thinking about introducing it in the last episode, but the last episode was so ungodly long that we got it. So we want to ask for your advice. We have a workflowy shared node where we do all of our podcast work. One of those nodes is the list, which is the official pairings that we have made. We also have the looking for a partner section, which is where we have films that we think are good films, but we don't know exactly what to pair them with. Sometimes we have a couple of options for what to pair them with. So we wanted to get your input on one of those. And this time we're talking about Promising Young Woman, the recent thriller directed by Emerald Fennell, who I know is currently getting a bad reputation. We'll see how this Wuthering Heights comes out. We were considering pairing it with Femme, or Drowning by Numbers, or Girl with a Dragon Tattoo. We were also considering pairing Femme with Mean Girls, the classic Lindsay Lohan, Tina Fey teen drama. Drama? Comedy.
Comedy.
Dramedy.
It's a comedy.
Okay. It's about bullying, David.
Okay.
So if you guys have any thoughts on which of those you want to see together, neither of us have seen Promising Young Woman. Is that correct?
That's correct. I've not
So we're kind of just going on the buzz in terms of how to pair these. So if any of you guys have thoughts on if Femme should go with Promising Young Woman, should it go with Mean Girls, should one of those other two go with Promising Young Woman, or maybe a film we haven't heard of, we are happy to hear about that. Also, if you guys have any suggestions for other films that we should pair together that we haven't mentioned, we're also interested in that. We obviously haven't seen every film that has ever existed, so we need your help. So after that, we will now be moving on to Michael Clayton. This is a 2007 film written and directed by Tony Gilroy. It stars George Clooney as You'll Never Guess, Michael Clayton, Tom Wilkinson as Arthur Edens, Tilda Swinton as Karen Crowder, counsel at Nasty Company U North.
Head counsel.
Sidney Pollack as Marty Bach, the managing partner at the important law firm that you're going to hear about a lot.
And recent German immigrant, apparently.
What?
Because his name is Marty Bach. Not Marty Bach, as it's typically pronounced actually in the film.
Oh.
But that's okay.
I can't pronounce it differently.
I love
it. Ken Howard as Don Jeffries, the CEO of U North. Sean Cullen as Gene Clayton, who is Michael's brother, and also, really conveniently, pretty high up in the police force. Great.
He's a detective.
Great brother for a lawyer.
They said that his dad was a police officer.
Okay. Merritt Weaver as Anna, who is the only plaintiff that we care about against Unique U North. Robert Prescott as Vern, a hitman. There's two hitmen. Is he the driver or the
He's
car bomber?
Mr. Vern, who is the car bomber. The car bomber and the driver are the same person. No. Yeah, the car bomber and the driver are the same person.
That's not true.
Okay.
One of them sitting in the car saying...
In the passenger seat.
One of them sitting at the driver's seat saying, hey, he's coming, you gotta get the bomb in. And one of them is struggling to get the bomb in.
But then when they're driving around chasing Michael, the guy who put the bomb in is the one driving then. Nope. So they must have switched seats?
Nope.
All right, well, I don't know then.
That's the one thing I know about this film. And Austin Williams as Henry Clayton, Michael's son, that he doesn't see that much because he's divorced from his wife. You have to be divorced to be the main character in this double feature.
That is the plot. So, Tony Gilroy is the originator, the creative force totally behind this project. This was his script, and he originally came to prominence as a scriptwriter. He wrote The Cutting Edge. That was his first script, if you know that one. The one where the hockey player and the figure skater have to get together to win the figure skating Olympics. He wrote Dolores Claiborne, the Stephen King adaptation. Maybe he became very famous for writing The Devil's Advocate with Keanu Reeves and Al Pacino. He wrote he wrote all of the Bourne Identity movies, and that's he became known as the Bourne guy. He went on to direct one of the Bourne movies afterwards. And so after he finished all of these Bourne movies, and had really dipped his toes into the world of espionage, he wanted to make like a proper good movie. And so he'd been working on this script for a long time. Originally, the script was based around the scene where the guy wants him to get a lawyer for the hit and run. And he just had that scene and slowly built a story around it.
Sorry, I'm going to need more than the guy wants him to get a lawyer.
The one where the guy says, I can hire a lawyer anytime I want.
Okay, the one that had nothing to do with the rest of the plot.
Yeah, the one that had nothing to do with the rest of the plot.
Okay.
That one. So originally they just had that scene, and then he was like, I like this scene. What's a movie that this scene could be in? And
then he didn't write that, but okay.
Well, the scene was in the movie, and you enjoyed that scene. I think that's the scene that most people remember most about the movie.
Right, but that's also true of the summoning the Green Knight scene in The Green Knight, and we both agree that the film would be better if that scene was excised.
I think I don't...
That's why we have a best scene category in the dubbies.
Well, we don't have a best without that scene category, which would be an interesting category. But I think the scene is good for the movie, but I do see your point. Tony Gilroy grew up in Orange County, New York, which is basically where the film is set. Michael Clayton says
What is the relationship between Orange County and New York City for
it is
non-Americans?
65 miles north of New York City.
Up the Hudson?
That sounds right. I'm not an expert on New York geography.
Nova is.
Of course, this is basically where Michael Clayton's family home is later shown to be. And it's said that in the film that Michael Clayton graduated from Washingtonville Central High School, and Tony Gilroy went to Washingtonville High School.
I did think we got kind of an unnecessary amount of background facts about Michael.
Yeah. The house that we go to for Michael for the birthday party is in the same neighborhood that Tony Gilroy grew up in. Okay.
Man, Tony thinks he's really fucking cool.
He does think he's really fucking cool. Tony thinks he's pretty fucking cool. Well, he's had a good career. That's undeniable. There's a few different stories about the background of how the bigger plot came to be. George Clooney has referenced a connection between the film and the Ford Pinto case, where the cars kept blowing up in the 70s. Mm-hmm. Specifically the part where a memo came out that showed that Ford knew that all the accidents were going to happen, but had just calculated that the settlement costs were going to be less than just letting all the people fixing the car, so just let all the people blow up, basically. Mm-hmm. Tony Gilroy has mentioned that the film was inspired because when he was researching for The Devil's Advocate, another movie about a big evil corporate law firm, he heard this story from a lawyer who said when he first started working at the company, they were working on this billion-dollar case, and one lawyer found a bad document hidden in the files that hadn't been found in discovery for whatever reasons that clearly implicated their client. And he said shortly after that, this lawyer was made the youngest partner at the firm in the firm's history, and the document was never seen again. Mm-hmm. We can definitely see the same connection there. The film's style is heavily influenced by Alan J. Palooka's Paranoia trilogy from the 70s, which is All the President's Men is actually the third one, and Clute is the first one, and I can't remember the middle one right now. I'm going to look it up. Paranoia trilogy. Parallax View, the one about the assassinations, which are all films that were inspired by Watergate and the assassination of the Kennedys, and people realizing / fantasizing that the government was out to get anyone that was fighting against the system.
60s disillusionment.
Indeed. And it is that paranoid style and feeling which really dictates a lot of the cinematography in Michael Clayton. Originally, Michael Clayton was supposed to be the working title, because we can't just title a movie Michael Clayton. Yeah, that's not really a title.
Title's a candidate for the worst part about this film.
Yeah, and I think everyone working on the film knew that. And we're like, no one's going to go see this movie if we call it Michael Clayton. So we're definitely going to come up with a better title. And then they didn't. And then no one went to go see the movie, and they were like, yeah. So do you have a better title, Libby? Maybe we can ask that later. I'm curious. Let's think about that.
I'm going to, spoiler alert, I don't.
Yeah, well, they didn't either. They also didn't. And they were like, well, Michael Clayton it is. Yeah. Though George Clooney was heavily considered for the role originally, they were like, we're never going to get George Clooney to do our movie. This was Tony Gilroy's first time directing a movie. And so a lot of the people who he reached out to said, wow, this is a really good script, but I've never heard of you, so I'm not going to be in your movie. Alec Baldwin signed on to do it. For a long time, it was going to be Alec Baldwin. This was at the very bottom of Alec Baldwin's career.
Okay, so they didn't actually want him?
No, well, I think Alec Baldwin would have done a good job. Yeah. He's another sort of cynical guy. I think actually George Clooney is...
He's got very similar hair to George Clooney.
George Clooney is so much more likable than Alec Baldwin, which would have brought in a different feeling to the story. I think this is the better casting, but I definitely see where they were coming from with Alec Baldwin. Denzel Washington, they really went after Denzel hard, and he seriously considered it. He said no because he'd never heard of Tony Gilroy, which is understandable.
I do think Denzel Washington is a better actor than George Clooney, so I probably wouldn't have been mad about that casting.
I think he's such a big personality. And
well, he's big, but I think he's also more gentle.
Interesting. Well, I think that's fair. He's more approachable. I don't know if that's the right term.
Yeah, I am kind of struggling to see Denzel doing that final scene. I think he would have done it really differently.
I think it would have been, all three of these actors would have done it very differently from each other, and would have made totally different movies. Denzel has gone on to say that he should have done it, and obviously he should have, and everyone loves this movie, and he likes the movie. And then both of Tony Gilroy's brothers, their father was a playwright and filmmaker, and all three of the brothers work in the film industry. His brother Dan, went on to be a director who did Nightcrawler, which was received very well, and his brother John is an editor who edited this film and Warrior and several other successful films. And so then in 2017, Dan Gilroy made a cynical movie about lawyers that Denzel Washington did agree to star in. So I think Tony has made several public jokes basically saying, you're welcome, Dan, for me getting you Denzel in your lawyer movie because he really wanted to do mine. And I think that's pretty fair. George Clooney said no, but then they met with George Clooney more. Clooney met with Tony Gilroy, and they really agreed on they agreed on how the film should be interpreted. I think maybe moving between these different interpretations. And so then George signed on to the project. I think it has to be clear that when George Clooney joined the project, he was really tired. And this is really the central point of the behind the scenes, is that George Clooney was exhausted. He had made 5 movies in 7 years. He had made movies all around the world, and also in the film, 2 movies before this one, but in I think 1 calendar year before, Syriana, which is a very good paranoid thriller film as well. He sustained a very serious injury. Mark Strong, the bad guy, kicked out a chair from underneath him in a torture scene, and he ruptured a disc in his back, and he was leaking spinal fluid, and it was really bad. And then when he made his own film, Good Night and Good Luck, the journalist one about Edinburgh R. Murrow, he had to edit that film lying down and get a special monitor where he could do it above him because he could not sit for about 6 months. So when George Clooney and Tony were negotiating on the project, Clooney said, I'm really tired. I mean, I'll do your movie if I want. And Tony said, honestly, that's great. Your character is really tired. Your character is going through a lot of stuff.
You can do a lot of sitting.
You can be not kind of that happy to be here. That is okay. That's what's going on in the movie. I think it does carry through. I believe it's very believable. Tony mentioned that when these various actors playing different roles got to do a scene with George Clooney, they were naturally really excited about it. Here I am going to do a scene with George Clooney. And he had to tell them each time, you just need to know, George is actually a very nice person. He does not want to talk. He is not excited to be here today. He is having a bad day today. His character is having a bad day, so that's okay. But yeah, he had a rough time, and they decided to incorporate that fully into the character. I think it has to be mentioned that this film has probably the most stacked list of producers of any film ever, maybe. I don't know. Partially,
this does seem kind of like a producer's movie. I could see them wanting to associate their names with it by any means necessary.
It's a classic movie, you know, in this millennium of blockbuster films that the industry is so very focused on, which had only started to happen at the time of this film's release, but was already partially happened. This is a film that a lot of people were really proud to be working on. This was a real movie, a normal movie, a classic movie. And part of the reason was also that, again, Tony Gilroy wrote the script. This was his first time directing, and he was insistent that he was going to direct this movie. He was not going to give it to anybody else. And so many other people really wanted to direct this movie and found the script and said, hey, why don't you just let me direct it? And he said no. And a lot of these people loved the script so much, they said, well, can I produce it? And he said, sure. So Sidney Pollack, who is a really famous director, he is also acting in this movie. He is a producer on this movie. And Sidney Pollack has directed and acted in a lot of movies at the same time. I think it's worth noting that in every role that Sidney Pollack has ever played on screen, he is somebody's boss. He is the practical boss who is well-meaning, but is like, look, we gotta actually do the job. Sorry about it, main character. In his very first role on The Twilight Zone, he played a director who came into production and tell everybody to shape up. He was Robert Redford's commanding officer in War Hunt. In Tootsie, which he also directed or co-directed with Dustin Hoffman, that's a separate issue, he played Dustin Hoffman's agent. Basically the same character he played in this movie, who's like, I like you, but you gotta shape up. Can we please do it? I'm starting to think that might just kind of be Sidney Pollack's personality. He's a nice guy, pretty likable, but he's actually very practical, and he'd like to get the job done. Which checks out for a film director.
Yes. Actually, a lot of film directors are very mean.
That's fair. Sidney Pollack is an actor's director. He often has good but very contentious relationship with his actors because both sides know that they really do want to make the film well, but Sidney needs to be the voice of reason, the practical guy. Executive producers also include Steven Soderbergh, who made such films as Sex, Lies, and Videotape, Traffic, and Erin Brockovich, and also wanted to direct the film. Anthony Minghella, who directed The English Patient, one of the most acclaimed films of the 1990s, is the executive producer and wanted to direct. George Clooney became an executive producer. So there are a lot of famous, really successful producers and executive producers on this project, most of which who wanted to be the director, and Tony said no.
Okay. Well, that's a good strategy.
It is a good strategy.
Just deflect them to being producers so that you can have your film.
And it got his obscure, probably not going to make any movie money made. He had a lot of really talented and connected people helping him make that happen. So it checks out. It was a co-production of Mirage Enterprises, owned by Sidney Pollack and Anthony Minghella, and Section 8, owned by Steven Soderbergh and George Clooney. Steven Soderbergh and George Clooney have a long working relationship. They had just made The Good German. They made Out of Sight. They ran a production company together. The film was composed by James Newton Howard, who's maybe most famous for composing the theme to the television show ER, starring George Clooney.
Yes.
And maybe second most famous for scoring the action horror film I Am Legend. So this is the I Am Legend composer. The film was nominated for Best Soundtrack. I never really got into this soundtrack, honestly. I like soundtracks.
It didn't make an impression on me.
It didn't make an impression on me. I don't get it, frankly.
This isn't a very, emotional film. This is a very technical and logistics film. He cries at the
horses. I mean, come on. But you're right.
Why, though?
Because Magic the Gathering?
That is the right answer. It's very, logistics film, and it's hard to write music inspired by that. I think composers normally want a big feeling.
Yeah, I'm hesitant to say that it's a bad score. I think I'm agreeing with you here. Maybe it's a great score that did exactly what it needed to do to make a movie that I really, really enjoy. So I'm willing to believe that it's doing the right things and that it deserved its nomination. But I will never listen to this on YouTube Music, even though I love the movie.
Yeah. Would a bigger score have made the film better, do you think? Or would it have distracted?
I think a bigger score wouldn't have worked. I think it would have been
I think a bigger score might have worked if Denzel Washington had been playing Michael Clayton.
I think we're talking about a very different movie then, and I think you're right. I do think the score could have been more entertaining, even if it wasn't louder or wilder. I do think there is it doesn't need to be as melodyless and atonal as it sometimes is. Or atonal is maybe also the wrong word. I mean, a lot of times it just feels like less than elevator music. Yeah. I mean, it's just a string chord being played and stretched out, which, again...
It's just sort of filling in the silence behind the actors' voices so you don't hear the HVAC machine in the room.
I think you're really right. And I think if Tony was here, he would say, well, yeah, there's a lot going on in this movie. Maybe one more layer that you have to process isn't going to make you like it more. And I'm willing to believe that he's right.
Yeah, I also think that's maybe not true. So now we're going to get to my big reveal, which is that I was just so tenuously grasping onto the plot throughout this entire film. And maybe if I had had stronger music cues to tell me, like, that this is an intense moment. Pay attention.
Yeah.
I don't think the whole score needs to be bigger, but maybe for the parts that are actually important, make those parts more musically intense so that I know what's happening.
I think there is some truth to that. I love movies that don't go out of their way to make it clear what's going on. I love, though this doesn't quite fit that, expositionless movies. And the film makes a real choice to go with this non-linear structure, which I think is very effective and is really powerful, and I enjoy. I think I like how they show you this big reveal and then say, well, what series of events would lead to this happening? And then you get to...
You're probably wondering how...
Yeah, yes. And so that was really compelling in that sense. So I also, as soon as I saw it, I was like, I'm going to watch this movie again. I think I watched it for the second time less than 48 hours after I saw it the first time.
I think that's a good approach. I think if you're going to watch this movie, watch it twice in a row.
I think if you're going to watch this movie, you should watch it twice in a row. That is basically how it's structured, and you're going to enjoy it more. So this is a film that rewards rewatching. So I love rewatching movies. I love low exposition movies. I don't need it explained. I'm willing to just watch it again if I don't really get it. So I agree with you. I just happen to be the target market for that game. It was filmed on a $21.5 million budget from January to April 2006 in New York.
So basically, Julia Roberts' entire paycheck was this film?
And this is a film made about 10 years afterwards.
Yeah.
So Julia Roberts really did get paid a lot of money to make Erin Brockovich. That is a fact. The film, its action is also based around a big car accident moment. And I think the explosion in this movie is really good. I think it is... You can tell that Tony Gilroy has been working on the Bourne series, which is famous for its car chases and explosions. Somewhat on a bigger, more cartoony scale, but Bourne is a more restrained action series. I really like how they did an explosion here. It was really exciting. Every time it happens, it's loud and it's scary, and you kind of jump in your seat. But it looked like a real car explosion. They did the double explosion where they blew up the front and then the gas tank blew up. So there's a lot of bad car explosions in movies, and I think this was a good one.
Yeah, when I watched it the first time in the prologue that happens at the end, I didn't like it because I was like, why is the inside of the car burning so much? Because car bombs, I'm thinking of car bombs from the Troubles where you're putting them under the car.
You're right.
And I was like, the fire's in the wrong place. But then in this case, the car bomb is inside of the car.
It's an electrical car bomb, not a mechanical car bomb.
Yes.
Oh, I should have mentioned that James Newton Howard, the composer, is actually most famous for scoring a lot of the M. Night Shyamalan movies. Okay. He did Signs, Unbreakable, which have very good music.
Yeah. That's not the problem with him.
Well, Signs, and I specifically mentioned Signs and Unbreakable because those are the two good ones. Actually, Sixth Sense, he also scored that one, also a good movie. So he scored the 3 good ones and 4 of the bad ones.
Okay.
But he scored all the good ones, Tony Gilroy's son was, in fact, truly obsessed with Magic the Gathering. And a big part of the movie comes from Tony Gilroy interacting with his son. Tony Gilroy is not divorced, but trying to have a closer relationship with his son and realizing just how much his son loved Magic the Gathering. He said he realized that his son loved Magic the Gathering as much as Tony Gilroy loved anything in the whole world. It was true.
If you want to have any conversation at all with him, you need to understand what Magic the Gathering is.
And of course, the game and story. Magic the Gathering is not a book series primarily. It's mainly just the cards. And their story is not the same. But they're kind of trying to refer to the Planeswalkers in Magic the Gathering. And they do find themselves in another world and are confused and shocked by that. And it's a traumatic experience for them.
Did they approach Wizards of the Coast to look for a product placement situation?
I don't think they did. And I think that was a mistake. I don't know if Wizards of the Coast would have said yes, but they should have.
I think they would have. I guess we're post Satanic Panic at this point, so D&D's selling okay. But we're still in 4th edition, which people didn't like, and Magic was their premier product.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting question. I mean, I think the problem would have been that Tony Gilroy wanted to have a particular story and lore, which is
with a novel.
Kind of based on Magic Planeswalkers, but not really.
Wizards would have published a novel.
Tell us what novel you want to publish, Tony, and we'll make it work for you.
Yeah.
It's an interesting idea. I hadn't thought about that. Again, I think Tony was like, but that's for nerds. That's maybe one reason. But that was a mistake. If that was
your
the reason.
Son, think about how much your son would love you.
Yeah.
If
that's a great point.
Maybe like
oh wow.
Maybe like the main character. What was his son's name? Is it something fantastical?
No.
Okay.
No.
It's not like Ken or something.
I don't know.
I don't think they name kids Ken anymore.
No, I think they're Ken.
Yeah, I think he would have scored major dad points if he had gotten
a great point.
His son to be the main character in a Magic the Gathering.
I mean, he basically did. But if it had that MTG logo on it, then that would have been better than the Realm and Conquest logo. There's no way around it. Yeah. Well, it's interesting that he interpreted it as such more of a conventional fantasy story.
Yeah, to me, Realm and Conquest sounds much more Lord of the Rings than whatever the hell Magic the Gathering is.
He was imagining Lord of the Rings, and his son was trying to explain to him that they were actually planeswalkers. And he was like, so it's Lord of the Rings, but confusing? Which is roughly how it came out in the film. That's okay.
That red book, not the one that gets printed in mass copies, but the original red book has that like leather cover, which I'm pretty sure one of the various Lord of the Rings copies that I own has that cover.
I own.
Okay, that one's
That's
yours.
right. That's my copy. I own the red bound full Lord of the Rings, which does look a lot like that book. So I think Tony Gilroy was like, I like Lord of the Rings. He likes Magic the Gathering.
They're the same, right?
This is an acceptable. As a game designer, I am pleased with the way the game is presented in the movie. They show the game as having an intellectual side, both on the lore side. We don't get into the strategy side, but it's not empty. The kid really likes it. That's not a bad thing. So I'll take it. They walked out of filming with this dry, kind of boring, confusing movie about lawyers entitled Michael Clayton. Maybe, again, the worst movie title of time. I think there is a better title out here. I'll propose The Document, The Memo, or maybe Bad Document, Bad Memo. These are better titles than Michael Clayton.
I'm not sure about Bad Document, babe.
That is the term of art. That's the quote from the film. How about just The Document then? Now it's a very dry title still, but it's more interesting. It's sort of dry intentionally.
I know something about what it is about. Michael Clayton, I know nothing. I got nothing.
I don't know if you've seen the Michael Clayton poster ever.
George is running at me.
I think he's just standing there. But it stands out that the title Michael Clayton is not the primary text on the poster. The primary text on the poster is the big red tagline, "The truth can be adjusted."
Also a better title.
Also kind of long, but a better title.
Adjustable Truth.
Sure.
Better than Bad Document and better than Michael Clayton.
So
I agree this is a tough movie to title, and they just gave up immediately.
I would go with The Document. I think that's the title of the movie. So, c'est la vie. But yeah, it wasn't something that anybody thought was really going to make any money, and went at the end of it.
How big was George at this point?
He was big.
Okay.
Oh, he was big. So they were like, yeah, maybe people will just go to see George. I
believe he at this point had twice won Most Handsome Man.
I don't know, but I believe you. This is post Ocean's 11, which is, I guess his biggest film to date. So yeah, Warner Brothers, the producer, the distributor, said, wow, we really like this movie. It's very well made. are you sure that we should release it, though, because no one is going to go pay us to show it in the theaters? Things started to change as the film was put on the festival circuit. It got a lot of really positive reviews on the festival circuit. And so then Warner Brothers got really excited, and they said, this is the movie we're going to put our tuxedo on for this year, was the quote. The film was released in September of 2007, so almost 18 months after filming had began, which shows some of the back and forth. How do we fix this project? The film was released to moderate ticket sales, to very good critic reviews that said this is a good movie, but you shouldn't go see it. It's too boring. It's just a boring movie. So I like it. I'm a critic, but you won't. When awards season came around, they thought this is the chance that we have to save the project, and they did get their Academy Award nomination, and they did do a second release, Call Me By Your Name style. I think there is a comparison to there. And the film went on to have a total gross of $92.5 million. That's $70 million.
With the two releases.
With the two releases, $70 million in profit, 330% return, so not far from what Erin Brockovich was. Of course, these numbers are always misleading, and in a way, they say you should really just take whatever the gross is and subtract $25 million for marketing and distribution costs, which every movie has to have. So that's why big budget movies are better, because a lot of people are going to go see it, and there's a flat cost to distributing it you can't avoid. So, okay, it probably wasn't super profitable, but it ended up doing okay, and it seems like they're getting some streaming money now. It did not win for Best Actor. Its only win was Tilda Swinton for Best Supporting Actress, who again has gone on to be one of the most acclaimed performances of the last 25 years. So she did a great job, and everyone immediately recognized that part.
I did go look at the Oscars page for what was going on at the 80th Academy Awards, and I just want to share all of the men who were nominated for actor in a leading role. So we had, the winner was Daniel Day-Lewis in There Will Be Blood. Then we had George Clooney and Michael Clayton, Johnny Depp in Sweeney Todd, Tommy Lee Jones in The Valley of Elah, and Viggo Mortensen in Eastern Promises. And my thesis isn't supported by the entirety of the actor in a supporting role nominees, but the winner...
Supporting or leading role? You just listed the leading role.
I just listed the leading. This is supporting.
Oh, okay.
The winner of actor in a supporting role was Javier Bardem for No Country for Old Men. So in 2008, the Academy really liked ruthless men out there being so manly, wearing suits probably.
Javier Bardem doesn't wear a suit. He's wearing casual clothes. But I do see your point.
Lot of violence, a lot of ruthlessness. I mean, Michael Clayton isn't particularly violent, but he is ruthless.
Yeah, I mean...
so there's a lot of violence in the movie.
I think these are the films that are being pushed at this time. I mean, from a cultural perspective, this is this is right before the Obama era. And I think people are trying to show the system as not just bad, corrupt, as it is in Erin Brockovich, but a real threat, and is sort of trying to...
So we're making a lot of movies about the system, so it had a very late Bush era aesthetic. And then we said, and then also that's bad.
I think that's kind of the idea. Okay. I mean, I think George Clooney did a good job in this movie, but I think Daniel Day-Lewis really deserved his win for There Will Be Blood. Frankly, that's an amazing performance, and this is a good by-the-numbers performance.
I agree. I'm not saying that George Clooney should have won. I am a little bit confused about why Johnny Depp is in here for Sweeney Todd.
Well, I know I'm not a big fan of the Sweeney Todd film, and I know you definitely aren't. So that doesn't surprise me to hear you say that. I think this is back to this musical tokenism that we've discussed in depth at other films. Yeah, I mean, this was the No Country for Old Men year. Which is not as good of a... No Country for Old Men is an acceptable film to win Best Picture, I guess. It's a good movie. But in a year where There Will Be Blood and Michael Clayton were nominated, I was disappointed that neither of those won over No Country for Old Men.
Into the Wood also came out this year. Into the Wild, not Into the Woods.
That's right. But that one, a film which I love, and I know you like as well. I can understand that not getting an Academy Award. That's basically an indie movie. You might even call it a special interest film. So I'm not bothered by that. But to have Michael Clayton and There Will Be Blood, which are such great things to win Best Picture, no one can complain about those. No Country for Old Men sold more tickets, I think, ultimately is what had the bigger effect. Juno won for Best Original Screenplay, which is one of the most controversial screenplay wins. Some people really think it's a terrible screenplay, and some people think it's good, and I think it's okay.
If anyone cares, Best Actress went to Marion Cotillard for La Vie en Rose. A very different feel.
Yeah, I think one of the criticisms of Michael Clayton that has to be mentioned is that there aren't a lot of interesting female roles, except for Tilda Swinton's role.
And they made her take her shirt off.
They did make her take her shirt off, you're right. And though I think, again, Tilda Swinton, maybe the best villain performance of all time. Time Bandits, I guess, is up there in some people's minds. But I think it might be my number one villain performance of all time. And, it's maybe not a surprise that this such acclaimed villainous performance is about the lone woman struggling to share some of the power with all the powerful men around her. And yeah, that is a character type that often gets put into villainous roles. That might not be a coincidence. That's a fact. Though Michael Clayton has a slightly higher Rotten Tomatoes rating than Erin Brockovich, it has a lower score on IMDb, only a 7.2 with 108,000 votes. Still actually a large amount of votes for what's considered an obscure movie. But as we're seeing, it's always just over the line of obscure, and it's been there for a long time, so it's not really an obscure movie
The least
anymore.
obscure movie.
Yeah, 7.2 is way too low. This is like a 7.9 to 8.3. This is a really, really good movie.
It also seems like the IMDb lads would like it.
Yeah, you'd think
this one's for you guys.
I kind of agree with you.
It's such a movie-y movie.
I think it's just over their heads. I don't know what else. It's boring. Maybe they wanted something with more action. 3 car explosions. Only 2 car explosions, and it's the same car. Maybe the movie is most famous now for the image of Tom Wilkinson carrying home a giant bag of baguettes, which has been memified as just about, people living their best lives, their truest selves, as Tom Wilkinson is. He loves that bread.
Loading.
What?
Carbo loading.
Yes, carbo loading. He said the bread was really good, so he's got money. He can get as much as he wants.
Baguettes are cheap.
Baguettes are cheap. So yeah, maybe he gave some away to his neighbors. I think that's really possible.
Tom Wilkinson, I think we mentioned he was nominated for actor in a supporting role. He's definitely doing the most acting in the film.
Yeah. He is really the dynamic character, even though he's not the main character. I might poetically call him the lead character. He is the one that's...
He's the Erin Brockovich of this film.
Yeah. I think he does a great job. I would have loved to see him win at the Oscars, but I think, I like how he doesn't do too much for somebody that is mentally unstable, for somebody that is getting involved in a lot of crazy stuff. He always feels like a real person. It's very believable. It's grounded. It's a grounded performance for an ungrounded character.
His American accent is not perfect. That's my gripe. But I think his portrayal of someone in a psychotic breakdown, which is going on for like multiple weeks, is very good. Or I guess the whole film is less than a week. But very good.
Not a psychiatrist. I can't comment on the medical details, but I think this film deserves praise for its portrayal of people suffering from mental illness as a problem. It's not like everything is easy for them. It's not like they do everything right, but they can still be heroes. They can still make all the difference. Sometimes people want them to go on medication, and there's a reason they don't want to go on medication that has some value that needs to be considered. And I really liked how it balanced.
And they can still have like a focused goal and intentions, as opposed to just being max crazy all the time.
That's right. So I think it's one of the better examples. Maybe one of the reasons that the film ended up being something of a miss with audiences is this opening. It has a kind of a weird opening. It's a 3-minute long dialogue, not monologue, 3-minute long monologue from a character who is not on screen, who is not the main character, which is not then explicitly referenced later on in the movie. Tony Gilroy considers...
And which isn't particularly related to the images that we're seeing.
That's right. Tony Gilroy considers himself a monologue expert. And so it's not surprising that it features so prominently in the film. I personally love the monologue.
Yeah, I like it.
I thought it was really effective. I love the imagery and the way it introduces us to the characters and sets the tone of nighttime in downtown. I think that... It's not maybe a scene, it's a montage, but it's another example of, montages make good filmmaking. There's no way around it. So you think that the montage was the the voiceover, the monologue was the right choice. That doesn't bother you as a way to open up our film, as a cold open.
I think that's fine. I'm totally fine being confused for like less than 5 minutes.
Yeah.
This film leaves me confused for like 15 to 20 minutes, and that was too long. So I wouldn't change the beginning. I would tighten up the next 3 or 4 scenes.
That's understandable.
Especially because one of them has nothing to do with the plot.
Well, that's the one that had all the fun lines. So they got to get those fun lines in there.
You can stick them in somewhere else. Lots of people can get lawyers whenever they want.
Yeah, as I understand it again, that scene was moved all throughout this script in every different place, trying to figure out where to put it.
You know what other story was written that way? Twilight.
Really?
Greatest work of literature of all time. Obviously, clearly, start with one scene, no context around it, then build the rest of your...
Is it a famous scene or an obscure scene?
Okay, I'm trying to remember the Stephanie Meyer's interview.
I don't know anything about Twilight, so I won't know it anyway.
Stephanie Meyer said she had a dream where... Should we do Twilight? Should we just do Twilight?
That's a good question.
Stephanie Meyer said she had a dream about a boy and a girl sitting in a cloudy field talking about how they were in love with each other, but this is tough because he was a vampire and he wanted to drink her blood. Just like, so she wrote that scene, then she wrote to the end of the book, then she went back and wrote from the beginning to that scene.
Okay. And so then what came before was that they were vampires.
Well, she'd already established that they were vampires.
Okay, all right. Okay, got it. Okay.
Did this movie need vampires, David? Your thoughts?
Well, maybe if Realm and Conquest had a villain and there was a villainous army of vampires, I don't think that would have hurt the movie. And there could have been some fun lines about like the blood-sucking corporations. Like Arthur could have had some quips when he was on the phone. This is not impossible to imagine.
Also, there's a sort of poetic justice if the vampire is sucking the blood of people who have poisoned
blood. Oh, poisoned blood.
You poisoned yourself,
yourself, vamps. That's good. All right, thumbs up on the vampires.
I guess I'm making that movie, the Twilight Michael Clayton crossover.
Oh, so they're Twilight vampires. Do they have blood? Do they do blood in Twilight? Do they drink blood? I thought they don't do that.
Yeah, they drink blood.
They drink blood.
The good ones drink animal blood.
Oh, that's okay.
I have read the first novel of the Twilight series.
Okay.
I haven't read the rest of them. It seems like they get weird.
Well, I think the animals were drinking from the well water too, so that works out.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're right that.
Thank you.
About everything.
Which part?
About everything, including the fact that the film does appear to have approximately 3 or 4 too many subplots, and this is part of why it's so rewarding for rewatching.
Yeah.
So I'm hesitant to really say it was a mistake. On the other hand,
I'm totally willing to watch this film again, and I'm totally willing to believe that my estimation of it would go up upon rewatch. I don't think that's true of Erin Brockovich.
I think it's good analysis.
One line that the first time I heard it, I completely misunderstood, and I sort of figured that out 30 minutes later, but now going into the second time, I will understand. It's when he's having an argument with one of his brothers about their respective vices, and he says, "My gamble was the bar." I thought he meant the bar exam.
Oh.
And I thought he was saying, I'm so responsible that my version of gambling is becoming a lawyer. And I totally forgot that he owned or inherited or something. He
started it with his brother.
Bar. I was so confused about what was going on with the bar situation.
He and his brother started a bar and he provided the seed money. Okay. But then his brother was an alcoholic and just drank all the liquor and then ran off.
Okay. I do like the line, my gambling was
great.
The bar exam. I think we need to stick it in a different film.
That works. The gambling subplot, I think, is one thing that is maybe could be cut, even though I think it's effective. And again, on all the rewatching, I really like how it pairs with the Timmy's vice of alcohol and how they're both stuck in addictions in different ways. And I like how it all comes together. I think having the gambling subplot be included in that initial sequence is maybe the mistake, because I love the initial sequence. I love the nonlinear element. But I think if in the initial sequence, we don't see anything. The part where he's
Let
arguing...
him be the goodest boy. And then we find out that he's bad later.
Exactly. And the part where he's arguing with the guy in the poker game is boring. I don't need that. So I think in the opening sequence, we can fix most of the movie if in the opening sequence, he just walks out of the building and we don't know what he's in there for, and only later do we find out that he's in there gambling. I think it's a better movie.
Also, I think given that gambling laws are dictated by state, a lot of people don't know that gambling is illegal in the state of New York. Well, that's even harder for non-Americans.
That's fair. Also, there's kind of one too many my friend the cop characters. Maybe he doesn't talk to the actual detective investigating Arthur's death. We never meet that detective. He just goes to his brother and says, what's going on with this case?
Also, like, I've seen enough movies to know that, like, the cops are like, well, everything looks like a suicide, but also we just watched it be a very clever murder. I don't need that to be laid out for me.
And there are like 3 different layers of the Michael being like, wait, was it a suicide scene? We have the same thing at the bar. We get it. He's figuring it out and he doesn't know it first and then he figures it out. I think I agree with you. If we maybe cut that scene,
Which I think maybe would be effective if we didn't see the murder. Because then the audience has to also figure it out.
We know.
But like, there's no tension for us here because we know it's a murder.
That murder scene's great. It's great action, great blocking. It's really powerful. It's emotional.
I'm a little bit mad because I think it makes it too clear how to do a murder.
It's a really well executed
It's a very realistic.
You can tell that this guy has been studying for the Bourne movies for the last 10 years. He did a great job. I was really impressed. So for a movie that's not an action movie, the action scenes in this movie are really well executed. Libby, what do the horses mean?
I have no fucking clue.
The answer, right, is that's because he saw it in his kid's Magic the Gathering book.
Yes, that Arthur had marked up. I was trying to figure this out, and this was somewhat informed by my recent viewing of Erin Brockovich. I was like, are the horses poisoned?
Oh, that's good.
And then I was like, there's this girl named Anna who's involved. Are these Anna's horses?
No, Anna lives in
I know,
Wisconsin.
but David, there's a lot of things going on. I can't remember what state Anna lives in.
Okay, fair. That's fair. Well,
also, I was like, I'm working with fucking nothing here.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Of course, it's easy to miss that shot where he sees the horses in the book.
I understand the setup. It still doesn't make sense to me that he would be like, I'm driving around. Does he think he has a tail at that point?
Yes.
Or he's just lost? Okay.
He thinks he's lost the tail, which he has.
But he's like, ooh, some horses. I'm going to pull out and look at them.
I mean,
why did he do that?
He does it because he's like sad about his relationship with his son. And
I thought he was sad that Arthur was dead, but okay.
Well, that too, but that's not about the horses.
Okay.
Maybe that too.
To me, when he was looking at that book the first time, I was interpreting that as a relationship with Arthur, not a relationship with his son. Arthur is his son.
He's realizing that Arthur and his son have a closer relationship than he does. Arthur actually read the book that the kid asked him to read at the beginning, and he didn't. And it's just part of the bigger emotional journey he's going on about like, oh, I've made the wrong priorities in my life and I signed up to be a evil henchman. I love evil henchman movies. There aren't enough movies about evil henchmen, so I'm glad this is another reason I love this movie. So I signed up to be the evil henchman guy, and maybe that was too bad. I did the wrong thing. So that is the answer to the question.
And I will seek absolution from these horses.
Whoa, the
Divine Council of Horses.
Starting now, I'm going to do what I should have done, which is when I have a moment of transcendent beauty that allows me to have a deeper connection with the people I love. I'm going to seize that moment and focus on experiencing it, even if it makes me feel sad.
I don't think his son cares about horses.
Well, this is something.
There being a picture of a horse in a book your son likes that's too much of a stretch.
You know, I'm deep.
He needed to find a deck of Magic the Gathering cards on the side of the road and pick those up. Then I would have gotten it.
I'm deep into the subtext of this movie, kind of like where you're deep into the subtext of Jane Eyre. So, and my deep subtext answer is, what he's thinking is, oh, I wish I was with my son right now. Then I could be like, hey, that looks just like the picture from the book that you like, which I have now read and looked at. That would be great. Then I would have like a beautiful moment, and this is the area I'm New York from. Like we could go look at the part of the country I'm from and share a special moment with my son.
And he's like, in this life or death moment, I am going to get out of my car.
Right. Well, first of all, he thinks that he lost the tail for good or for bad. And yeah, well, his life is over. That's all gone now. None of that matters. They're probably going to kill me an hour from now anyway, whatever. This is what I should have been doing with my life. Taking car rides to the country and looking at horses. And then occasionally referencing this book or whatever he likes. So that's the answer. There's nothing more going on. That is in fact the answer. I've seen the movie several times. So, I've heard some crazy interpretations. I heard there was one about Mithraism. and
Okay.
how like the different animals and the rights of Mithraism and how they're all represented in
Not
different
only
ways.
horses in Mithraism, it's more about the bull.
Yes, you're right. But
There's also a scorpion, a dog, and a snake, and a crow.
Tony Gilroy specifically said that is not true, and he doesn't know what Mithraism is.
Okay.
So that is just in case there's any Mithraism fan theory fans listening to the show. Sorry, doesn't look like that one checks out. But yeah, Tony Gilroy does think it's very funny that everyone tries to figure out what's going on in the horses, because the answer is in fact the sort of obvious emotional thing that you think it is, and there's nothing else going on.
Yeah, and I think that's a problem.
It doesn't bother me.
The emotional thing is too tenuous. Make it a deck of cards. Then I would be fully on board.
The problem is that we only get this extremely brief glimpse of the horses in the book. Somehow the picture of the horses in the book...
Yeah, have the kids show him a card and be like, this is my favorite card. It's a horse.
This picture needs to be more of a through line throughout the movie, and then I think it works. So that's a valid criticism, even though I do like the bigger picture thing that the film is doing in that scene.
There was another part that I think is very important, but that I totally missed. Does Karen, Tilda's character, explicitly make the call to murder Arthur?
Yes.
Because it seems like that's very important. And I remember her saying, like, we're in this tough situation, give me options.
Yes.
Did they then say murder? And she says, yes?
Yes, that is what happens. Okay. So, I'm really glad you're highlighting this because... I love the character of Karen so much, and
I understood from later context that obviously Karen had called the hit.
Yes,
but I couldn't remember her actually doing it at the moment.
One thing that I think makes sense. I'm curious of your opinion, but that isn't said anywhere in the movie is that Tony Gilroy and Tilda developed this character and developed her as having a pathological inability to ask for help. That's the character's defining feature. That she's very talented. And probably if she had just at the beginning of the process gone to her boss on the board or whoever and explained more of the situation, she would have maybe gotten in some trouble, but gotten out of it better. But she wants to do everything herself. So yes, it is very, very intentionally, even if it's not that explicitly explained, it is her making the call. That is the point.
So we watched these in the order of Erin Brockovich, then Michael Clayton, following our default approach of earlier film first. David, do you think that was the right approach?
I would love to hear your opinion first.
I think this was the necessary approach because Michael Clayton is so confusing. And one of the many plot threads is big company is poisoning the water and giving people cancer. And that's the main focus of Erin Brockovich. And even though that's the crux of the problem in Michael Clayton, they pay almost no amount of attention to it. So I was happy to have been like, yes, I know about big company poisons the water and gives people cancer. We can move on from that.
I think that's great analysis.
I think I would have understood Michael Clayton even less if I hadn't just watched Erin Brockovich, even though they're not particularly related.
I think that's great analysis. I really struggled to figure out what order we should do these, honestly, because I think fundamentally, you can do it in either direction. It's not like though Steven Soderbergh did make Erin Brockovich and then helped to make Michael Clayton. That's not really the story or the key influence that we're looking at here from an analytical perspective. So I think it could work either way. As we came to it, I think we definitely did make the right decision. Erin Brockovich is a morning, afternoon movie. Michael Clayton is an night movie. Erin Brockovich is pretty easy to watch. Michael Clayton is kind of hard to watch. And with the first time you watch Michael Clayton, you probably aren't going to get everything. It's probably not going to work. So it's not like, you need to be really fresh. And if you're not really fresh, you're going to miss some stuff. You're going to miss some stuff. I'm sorry. That's just what this movie is. So I think you're right. And just as you're saying, it's so easy to imagine Michael Clayton as the other side of the Erin Brockovich story. And that's much harder to do in reverse. And so I agree with you that if you just imagine that, this is another Erin Brockovich story, but now let's look at the dark side of the Erin Brockovich story, it's very easy to interpret these movies. So might as well do it in this order. That isn't, maybe there is something to be said historically about how Michael Clayton is intending to be responding to the traditional Erin Brockovich lawyer story, which of course is only one example of, but it's maybe the most prominent, the most successful example of. So as a dialogue, I think it works better in that direction too. So this is definitely the right order.
We did also mention that if you're going to watch Michael Clayton, you should plan to watch it twice in very short order.
You really should.
How do you feel about the Michael Clayton, Erin Brockovich, Michael Clayton viewing schedule?
Oh, that's pretty good.
Or do you think it's better to go Erin
No.
Brockovich, Michael Clayton, Michael Clayton?
It's better to do Erin Brockovich, Michael Clayton, because you need all your tools at your disposal the second time, and I think you're gonna like Erin Brockovich less because it's less of an interesting movie, and because you'll be saying, but wait a minute, I know that what's really going on. So I think it could work, but I would do Erin Brockovich, Michael Clayton. I think it has to be said that this could have easily been a triple feature, specifically with the film, the Russell Crowe vehicle, The Insider, which I believe was directed by Michael Mann. Yes, the Michael Mann film, The Insider. It's not a lawyer movie. It's a movie about it's a real life adaptation about a leaker from the tobacco industry who gets involved with the producer for 60 minutes. Okay. So it has much more of the tone and style of Michael Clayton as nonlinear storytelling. It's sort of a serious film, but a plot structure that's very similar to Michael Clayton about a brash outsider.
Erin Brockovich.
Erin Brockovich, thank you. About a brash outsider finding a leaker to help them expose everybody. So if you kind of like both of these movies, then you probably will like The Insider, which is a very well-received and acclaimed film. Well, next up, we are moving into the rich world of Persian cinema. Next up is Where is the Friend's House from 1987, and we're pairing it with a recent American film, The Florida Project from 2017.